Hey guys, it's Chris. From being paralyzed for life to murdered and even drowned, here are 10 horrifying stories of when yoga went very, very wrong. Number 10. Off the balcony. In one of the most jaw-dropping incidences of yoga gone wrong, a student fell roughly 75 feet while trying to complete an extreme yoga pose on the railing of her balcony. Alexa Terrazas was just 23 years old when she attempted to perform the obviously very dangerous stunt, precariously 6 floors above the hard concrete below. A photograph was captured right before the fall that just about took her life. You can see her upside down with her thighs balanced on the balcony. And that was the moment she slipped and plummeted to what almost certainly should have been her death. Medics had to battle for 11 hours to save this girl's life at the local hospital she was sent to in the Mexican state of Nuevo León. Miraculously, she survived the dangerous fall, though doctors did say it could take up to 3 years for her to start walking again. Her legs literally had to be reconstructed. The most insane part is that Alexa was known for trying out these bold stunts. Neighbors and friends had witnessed her doing similar things before. So it really makes you wonder if once her legs are healed, Alexa will then climb back onto the balcony and try this pose again. Number 9. Suffers a stroke. In October of 2017, Rebecca Lee from Maryland suffered an enormous stroke because of an accident while practicing yoga. Rebecca had been attempting a pose known as the hollow back handstand. The pose was to be photographed and uploaded online for all her followers on social media to see. Unfortunately, things didn't go exactly according to plan. Rebecca tore an artery while trying to perfect the pose, which led to her having a stroke. She immediately experienced blurred vision and couldn't control her arm. The stroke lasted for about 5 minutes. And then, according to Rebecca herself, her head began to hurt a lot. She immediately knew that her suffering was much different than just an ordinary headache. Still, she couldn't have imagined that what happened to her was actually a stroke. In the days following the accident, Rebecca noticed that her eye was drooping and that her pupils were different sizes, and she was eventually forced to go to the hospital by her concerned husband. She told SWNS. The doctor on staff came into the little room we were waiting in and said in a monotone voice, "Well, my dear, you had a stroke." She continued. Kevin and I both let out a little laugh because we thought he had to be kidding. There was no way that someone my age and my health could have had a stroke. But he responded to our laughter in a solemn silence, and his face said it all. Even though Rebecca was in outstanding shape, she ate nothing but healthy food and was only 40 years old. She suffered a stroke and is still plagued by headaches and memory loss. Number 8. Paralyzed for life. An unlicensed dance studio recently got into some trouble after surveillance footage captured the terrifying moment that a young girl was left paralyzed while trying to perform a risky yoga pose. This girl was only 4 years old, and she's now paralyzed for life. She was doing the back bridge pose with dozens of other children in class when she collapsed. She was taken to the hospital immediately with no feeling in her legs and a lot of confusion. She was pretty out of it. This incident happened in the Henan province of China. According to Dr. Kui Lin from the Zhengzhou Children's Hospital, the girl seriously damaged her spine because of the difficult move being taught to her by her dance instructor. The injury was probably a spinal contusion. The doctor went on to say that things were not looking optimistic for the young girl, as she will almost definitely be paralyzed in her lower body for the remainder of her life, which is literally her entire life because she was so young when the tragic freak accident occurred. It's being suggested that the teacher of the dance studio was not professional enough to teach children's yoga, and the dance studio has absolutely no certificates. As of right now, we don't know if the instructor responsible has been jailed or even fined. Do you think the unsolicited yoga teacher should be held responsible for this young girl's now paralyzed life? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Number 7. Yoga drowning. A woman in New York recently drowned while participating in a yoga class. And as absolutely insane as this sounds, it's absolutely true. Of course, this was stand-up paddleboard yoga, with the class being held on Long Island. Lisa was an inexperienced paddleboarder who tried to help another woman in the class who got stuck in the strong current. Lisa then got caught on a bridge piling and fell into the water, according to Southold Police Chief Martin Flatley. Lisa was tethered to her board and unable to free herself while the board kept her submerged underwater. A jogger who witnessed the scene while passing by quickly jumped in and dragged Lisa to dry land. But sadly, it was too late. Despite rescue attempts by hospital paramedics and the fire department rescue squad, Lisa was pronounced dead when she arrived at the hospital. Is it really necessary to do yoga in these risky conditions? Number 6. Hot yoga death. A British mother who paid over $13,000 to take a course in hot yoga has died under extremely mysterious circumstances in Mexico. The class was to be taught by the since-disgraced yoga instructor BIKRAM. The course was to be 9 weeks long and take place in the hot and humid conditions of Acapulco, Mexico. The mom, whose name was Phyllis, traveled across seas all the way to Acapulco from Great Britain. Not long after she arrived on October 2nd, she began to feel sick, but was not taken to see a doctor until almost 2 weeks later on October 14th. Her son arrived to take care of her 2 days later, but she died almost immediately upon his landing in Mexico. What's really horrifying is that nobody really knows how she died. This mom was in excellent health and was quite experienced with hot yoga. She became sick for unknown reasons, was dumped at the hospital 2 weeks too late, and then abandoned in Acapulco by the unconcerned yoga staff members. She paid over $13,000 to be left behind like a dirty diaper. According to the report from the Daily Mail, Phyllis likely died of heart failure due to sepsis. Worst yoga retreat ever. Number 5. Yoga killing spree. A completely ordinary Friday afternoon at a yoga studio turned into an absolute nightmare of unimaginable proportions when a disturbed gunman walked into the studio, gunned down 2 innocent ladies while they practiced yoga, and injured 5 others. This was the most horrific shooting that ever happened in a yoga studio, and the fact that it happened at all is frankly quite shocking. The attacker's name was Scott, and he's 40 years old. He had gone into the yoga studio posing as a potential customer before opening fire on 2 women in Tallahassee. The 2 women that were killed were later identified as a student and a faculty member from Florida State University. According to CBC News, Scott had previously been accused of harassing females and had apparently been charged for inappropriately touching women's behinds. This guy was obviously a lunatic, and his lunacy took him over the edge. And it kind of looks like nobody's safe in Florida, whether you're in a yoga studio or just minding your own business on the street. Number 4. The BIKRAM yoga assaults. BIKRAM Chowdhury is the infamous yoga instructor from the popularized BIKRAM yoga and made an absolute fortune in the process. Unfortunately for a lot of his students, this guy was also apparently a deviant. He's been hit with at least 6 allegations of inappropriate behavior with his students. The Indian-born yoga instructor is around 70 years old. And in his defense to these accusations, he actually said, according to the New York Post, that women liked him and that he really wanted to be involved with his students. He wouldn't need to assault them. This is a pretty shady defense, especially considering that Sarah Braun, one of his students, came forward saying that he told her that she would have no career as a yoga instructor unless she did what he told her, and what he told her to do was wildly inappropriate. Another woman that took a class with him also came forward and said this about it. "I looked him in the eyes and pushed him off me and I said, 'I can do this by myself,'" she told CNN. And he said, "No, you can't. There's no way." I got up and I left the room. There's actually a documentary about this creep called BIKRAM, Yogi Guru Predator. Have you seen it? I have. It's pretty interesting. In any case, a lot of women had pretty crummy experiences trying to become yoga instructors thanks to this guy. Number 3. Break a leg. A man in Ireland fractured his thigh bone while trying to do the seated yoga position called the Mariichi Asana. This guy was 38 years old and had already been practicing yoga for 2 years, but unfortunately he wound up in the hospital with a broken leg. This happened during his morning yoga class, with the position requiring him to sit down and have his knee bent up to his chest with his torso bent towards the floor. If that sounds uncomfortable to you, well, you're not the only one. When the Irishman got into the position, he heard a disgusting cracking sound and felt a huge pain in his right femur, which of course is his thigh bone. The pain was so bad that he collapsed and needed an ambulance to take him to the hospital, where it turned out he had fractured his bone 4 inches above his knee joint. While these kinds of injuries definitely happen, they're pretty rare. What's really strange about it is the Irishman had been practicing yoga every morning for at least an hour, and still he wasn't prepared for such a contortion. Imagine bending your body into such a cruel position that you literally fracture your own bone. Whoa, ouch. Number 2. Backflip gone wrong. A 22-year-old singer and dancer recently died in Bengaluru's Victoria Hospital after battling for his life for 8 long and miserable days. This guy hadn't been doing yoga, but he had been trying to complete a backflip. If you ask me, backflips and yoga are basically the same thing, and apparently they're equally as dangerous. While trying to perform the backflip on video for the popular app TikTok, he landed on his neck, injured his spinal cord, and shortly after he died. This guy broke himself all for the sake of getting a bit of attention on TikTok. At least with people who are practicing yoga, they're trying to become healthier. This poor young man was not the only person to recently be injured trying to get attention on TikTok with a dangerous stunt. There was also a 2-year-old child in Wuhan who just sustained major injuries to their head after a relative tried to flip the kid 180 degrees, like he'd seen done in a TikTok video. I recommend not trying these stunts if you have no previous experience. Number 1. A broken back. Jennifer Pond was in a standing twist pose when she heard a loud popping sound. The event planner then felt a shooting pain in her right leg and hip, which she at first thought was just a pulled muscle. But not very long after, the pain became unbearable. Jennifer went for an x-ray and discovered she'd broken the interarticularis bone located at the base of her spine. The injury, which didn't seem that bad at first, worsened until it weakened her backbone to such a point that it slipped forward and gave her a condition known as spondylolisthesis. Jennifer, who was a resident of Canada, suffered such pain from her injury that she was forced to walk with a limp and can no longer go long distances. She was in agony for 4 years until she very recently got a spinal fusion surgery. She has since started walking better, but Jennifer is still a long way from a full recovery. And all of this misery just to twist her body into a weird pose. It really makes you question how safe yoga really is. Thanks for watching. Do you still want to do yoga after hearing these stories? Have you had a bad experience with yoga yourself? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and the subscribe button for more awesome content like this. We'll see you next time.